Beatrice just asked me how my Camino was, and we have a few minutes before we start, so I will answer that. It was fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it. I enjoyed it a lot last year, although last year, many of you may know or remember, I had an injury the night before we were going to start walking last year. So I was working with some torn ligaments in my ankle last year and I was really using the work. You know, I was being aware of the sensation that I was accustomed to calling pain. And it has, you know, it really does, if you, whatever you put your attention on and name it with a label from the conditioned mind, it will amplify it. And if you practice these ideas of being aware of the experience, just a little bit back from the experience, just as primary to the experience, and then just allow the mind to really experiment, or just allow the mind to entertain that this is a sensation, and then not locate it really as it, with the eyes closed, and just really being present. You can make it so it's non-localized, and just practicing that while I was in that experience was very helpful. And this year there were no incidents. It was just full on walking, and about 4 or 5 days in, I realized why so many people love the Camino experience, whether it's the Camino de Santiago, Portugal, Spain, and France, or the Camino that's called the Assisi Camino that is in Italy. It's because what I noticed, that walking, when you're not conversing with another being and chattering and bop and memory and all that, when you're just walking and just allowing the experience to unfold itself, the mind goes quiet, and the experience is more prominent in beingness. And I think it's a message to me that's why so many people, whether they're doing it for a spiritual walk or some kind of awakening, seeming awakening, it's because the walking experience brings you into the beingness of presence. And when thoughts and feelings and emotions come into that space, it's just naturally absorbed into that spacious beingness. And so that was my Camino experience was wonderful. I'm planning to go to Italy next year on another one with a small group, and I look forward to doing it. It's just fun. You know, I just turned 65, and I feel like it's just like 65 is not any different physically than 35 if you just exercise a little bit. And this is part of my exercise. So
very healthy, I think.
Pardon me?
The whole walking is very healthy too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When you see people walking, you know, a lot of people do it because their doctor or their intuition tells them, I need to walk, it makes me feel better. Or I need to walk because it, you know, gets the body moving, and good things happen when that happens. And walking is a very healthy experience for humans. And also it puts us, I feel it takes us out of the body actually, and puts us into the mind of consciousness. So,
Or the other way around, into the body, into the mind of consciousness, because the body is part of.
oh, what did I say?
It took you out of the body, you said, but just as Jean Klein said, the whole body knowledge belongs also to the.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you have to be also in the body to be fully conscious.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. You have to be in the body to be fully conscious.
yeah, yeah.
Is that what he says, or does he say, do you have to include the body?
We'll find it somewhere.
Okay,
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
think we are going to talk about that. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Yet the body is revealed to be eternity too. Yes, Annika, thank you. Well, Beatrice, before we get started, I want to get us live on, I'm going to try YouTube.
Yeah.
Last time it didn't work on YouTube, but I'm going to try that again and see if it will work, because it's just an easier, it's an easier thing for me to use after the fact. Nope, it's not letting me. There must be something wrong with YouTube doing it. So I will switch to putting it on Facebook. Live on Facebook. Just one moment, please. I'm going to share it on my Course in Miracles page, because a lot of the Course in Miracles guys love this kind of content. It really is, for me, it's a fast track to the progressive path. The direct path is the fast track of beingness in my mind. Let's see. It looks like we are starting to go live. It's seems to be slow right now. But we'll go ahead and get started and see what happens over there on Facebook. I'm not going to get stuck on that. Beatrice, oh, it says that we're preparing to be live. Can you see that on your screen?
No, I'm just seeing you
Oh,
and the chats and the number of participants.
okay. I think, let's see, what I might need to do is to go to my wired internet. So if you guys see a frozen screen for a minute, I just switched over to my hardwired internet. Are you guys good? Is everyone good at getting a good signal? All right. Yes. Okay, good. Well, Beatrice, thank you for joining with me again today and with all of us for our book study, The I Am. I love this book. It's so good. It's just so practical, and it's so there's some part of it. Someone sent me an email. I'm going to refer to an email that was that came in that was specific to this first chapter, or the chapter that I call chapter 10, the spiritual search. And we'll go to that in just a moment. But in the meantime, I just want to welcome you back to the Pure Presence Book Club and to look at I Am. And just for all of you that are watching and for the recording, I didn't realize that we had missed one of Rupert's books. So the next book is going to be this one. The next book is going to be The Transparency of Things by Rupert Spira, Contemplating the Nature of Experience. This will be our next book for the book club, and it'll probably start in the fall. Like, this one ends in August, we'll probably start it in September. And Beatrice, where do you hail from? Where are you?
The Netherlands.
The Netherlands.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
wonderful.
Amsterdam. Like
Amsterdam. Oh,
yeah.
that's right. You're near Annika. Yes,
Yeah,
I
somewhere.
mentioned that the last time. Right, right. Did you see Rupert when he was in Amsterdam?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
just
think he was there for a short weekend this year.
he was in April, but I went to the retreat in Wales in May, so I skipped the weekend.
Okay, good,
The full 7 days. That was
good,
nice. Yeah.
good. Did you see were you with us the day that Jenny spoke about this
Oh,
book?
yes. Yes. I love the way she explained, she reversed the chapters and
Yes,
how she explained how different Jean Klein is to Rupert, and
yes,
how and that is also when I read this or try to read this, my experience. It's with him, it's all the listening. um, I think Jenny said it's like an artist.
yes,
Yeah. So it's not a line of thought to explain things, but just he keeps coming back in his answers to the questions to what he really wants us to hear.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. You know what I really like about this book is the questioner has some really practical questions. You know, the questions are like everybody's questions. They're really good ones.
That's funny because I have trouble with the questions,
You do.
and yeah, they sort of put me off, and then the answer comes, and I get very happy. Like,
Oh,
for
oh, good.
instance, here in the very first page, what can we look for in our first meeting with a teacher that proves to us that our approach is the right one? In my conditioning, or no, maybe not conditioning, I don't know. I don't have much with teachers. So I have nothing against them, but I have no connection to that. So his answer is wonderful because he is saying on page 72, truth is that which needs no agent to be known. It's on the fifth, the 72.
Hey, you mean 74?
No, 72.
No, on my book it's 74.
Oh, where does your chapter begin?
It begins on page 73.
Okay, mine starts at 71. So I must have an older version. I'll,
It's the
okay,
same.
when I use,
It's the same
okay,
paragraph. So go ahead.
yeah, I'll put 2 pages on. So it's page 73 on top. Truth is that which needs no agent to be known. And for me, and going back 1 page in his answer, right at the bottom, when he's talking about the teacher, for what you say in English, regels, rules. This forefeeling of the truth is decisive in eliminating what is false. Can you see that?
Yes, this forefeeling of truth is decisive in eliminating what is false.
Yes. And for me, he sort of points immediately, like right from the start again, to the direct experience. So not to a teacher, not to my head, but to something I can experience, a forefeeling of truth. For me, that's the same thing that Rupert called when he asked the question, are you aware?
Yes. Oh,
then I go to, oh, yes, I'm aware. So I go directly to that place. And here, it's the same thing. That's why the second sentence is so important to me, that truth does not need an agent to be known, not a teacher, not an object, not a teaching, but it's something I can recognize, the feeling of truth.
yes.
So for me, the question of what we're supposed to find when a teacher, to prove to us that our approach is right, that doesn't touch me. What touches me is to prove to me that I'm on the right approach is when I'm in this feeling of truth.
Mm.
That it doesn't need any other, what did he call it, agent to be known.
Right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what really attracts me in the simplicity of Rupert's
Yes.
question of, are you aware? There's no one else to tell me whether I'm aware or not.
Mm.
Not Rupert. It's the only one that can experience and answer that question is I.
Yes. Yes.
And here the same thing is sort of said. So I like the questions because they inspire an answer, but it seems like all the answers are almost denying the question. He keeps coming back to that all this is about being. The thing you said about the Camino, when you were saying you were walking and you noticed that while walking, your mind got at rest, and the thing that sort of remains is the being.
Mm. Yes.
And it's the same way for me with this truth thing. So I don't need a teacher, and you don't need me, because it's direct without an agent.
Yes.
So for me, this very first page 73 in your book, is the feeling of truth.
Mm.
It's something really alive.
Yes.
I forget it, but sometimes, but I can always come back to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the essence of the this is the essential nature of the being, actually.
Yes.
That reveals itself. And this is why what you say, this is why I feel Rupert says, don't look at me.
No.
Don't believe me. Have your own direct experience.
Yes.
And then he brings out that simple question, am I aware? Are you aware?
Yeah.
Answer that question, or contemplate and let that be revealed, and you will find for yourself. It's not based on anything I say or something that you believe or read. It's the direct experience, and that's what you're speaking of.
Yeah, because it's very alive, and it is being. Yeah.
It's your proof.
Yeah.
It's the proof that you have. There's a well-known teacher, very well-known teacher of A Course in Miracles, that I brought through the steps for about 3 minutes, and of just being aware of the experience, and close your eyes, and does this awareness have an age? Does this awareness have a gender? And then spending some time being in that space. And this person had the experience that we know reveals itself. And then my question was, what is that? What is that has no age and has no gender? And his answer was, I don't know. His answer was, I don't know. And that's as far as we went. But it's interesting that, you know, even when that something does know, the awareness knows itself right there, but there's an element of denial that doesn't want to deny that that is the I, or the I am, I guess.
Mm.
So that's just a kind of a sidebar thing that happened just last week in my on a Zoom call I had with a teacher of A Course in Miracles. It was an interesting dialogue. But when I read these questions, Beatrice, I love that they do come from the mind. They come from a what I call local awareness, the body mind that believes that itself is what awareness is, instead of in what we know to be what awareness is, which is a non-experience that includes all experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I say, it brings out whatever Jean Klein has to say, and that is beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. It pulls the truth. It causes him to say, look at it like this, and then you will see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There
One
was
of the things you were saying is, or are you on the board now?
there was something that I wanted to say, because it's right under the sentence that you brought our attention to, that says truth that which needs no agent to be known. And then it says it cannot be thought, it can only be lived.
Right.
And then it says the longing to be autonomous, to be conscious without an agent, has its roots in consciousness itself. And I like the language of that sentence, the longing to be autonomous, because he speaks to it again later on, where there's this longing to know, or there's this longing for I to be revealed, I feel.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And you were saying
That maybe that's in the next page, 75 in your page, the second paragraph. He's talking about, well, the question is, what part is played by thought in the search for truth?
right.
And the thing I really liked is that he said, thought is quite capable of realizing its own limitations and ultimately gives way to its source, stillness, being.
Yes, yes.
So it includes thought, and I think it's beautiful. In a way, this whole hour, I almost feel compelled to just read some of his sentences and keep my mouth shut because it's so so complete, and we don't even have to talk about it. Like, it's so beautiful what he says here. Thought is composed of past memory, but it's quite capable of realizing its own limitations and ultimately gives way to its source, stillness, being. So it's a sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like what you said about the questions. Questions are coming from thought, from the mind. And the questioner knows its limits, is capable of realizing that, and in the end gives way to the stillness, to the being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is, it says it arises from silence and loses itself in silence.
Yeah.
Which is, it's the idea of living meditation, not trying to reach a state, but it's the living
Yes.
meditation as being. And that's what I discovered also on this last Camino. It's that silence where all things are, it arises, the thoughts lose themselves. The thoughts, the experiences, mind, chatter, everything about person, it loses itself. It just sort of, it becomes, it becomes nothing, because the silence is pervading the experience in such a way that you then enter the experience of the silence itself.
Yeah. And Hillary just added to that, not just thoughts, but also the senses and the perceptions. So that rise up from the silence and disappear in silence again. It's true for thoughts. That's what he's talking about here, but it's also true for perceptions and sensations. They rise up out of stillness and lose themselves again in silence. And for me, that's what the whole chapter is about the difference between talking about it, trying to understand it, and living it, being it. I think it's amazing how Jean Klein manages to put that into words, like what you were doing at the Camino. It's happening while you're walking, and somehow it's happening for him in answering these questions.
Yes.
So that his advice on page 76 for you in the middle: be knowingly silent as often as you can, and you will no longer be a prey to the desire to be this or that. You will discover in everyday events of life the deep meaning behind the fulfillment of the whole, for the ego is totally absent. So that's in 76.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Just up the middle. Be knowingly silent as often as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different way of it's a totally different way of living your life.
Yes.
And once it's discovered, it's sort of it has this it has this, I'm going to use a Francis Lucille word. It has this perfume. It has this feeling of such a like a I don't know, home. It has a place of presence that just feels like I belong to that. Like it's just this peaceful beingness.
Yes. And not having to do anything, just being. The person is not a part of whatever is happening. I was just reading that. I just can't find the page now, but just before we came on, I was just reading a sentence about how things follow their natural course without any intervention on the part of the person. So I was sitting waiting for the Zoom to go on, and I realized there was a relaxation. I don't have to perform this whole Zoom hour with all these 34 people, participants, is going its own course without me, Beatrice, having any part of it in it. I mean, okay, I'm talking, but it sort of took away a remnant of, oh, I have to do something. I'm on, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's on page 77, I think. Wait, it says, the question is there, page 77. When we live in the now, are we always creative? Found it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, I have it.
And then he says, all potentialities attain fulfillment according to their inner capacity, but we are not these potentialities. And then it comes, things follow their natural course without any intervention on the part of the person. You are creative when you seek nothing, when you do nothing. And then the key sentence, things fulfill themselves within you without your needing to take part intentionally. That is wonderful, especially when you're a co-host and think, oh, I have sort of, there's always remnants of that you have to do something. So
Yes.
just before we started, I just reread that piece, and it's in that new, the thing you said, the new way of living, the perfume.
Mm-hmm.
This is for me one aspect of that perfume more and more, that I can be completely into being and acting without to take part intentionally. So I'm doing things, I'm thinking things, but it's not intentionally. It's another side of the perfume, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. It's almost like this is the unseen, or really very, very little talked about, sort of an outcome, or the results of this path is that the body, mind, the thinking experience really becomes less and less, because the beingness becomes more, and there's less to think about, because the person is just, it sort of is, it does, it is, or it just moves. And that's, I think that's one of the highlight benefits of the direct path, is that when you live in that space, you live in a new space of oh, like you did right before you came on. You found that resting place. It reminded you of your beingness, and nothing to do. It's all being done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to continue with that a bit on the same page 77 in your book. There's the next question is, I'm sure that things fulfill themselves in oneself without any effort when one is already open. But is not a certain amount of concentration needed before one reaches this openness? Otherwise, when you say there is nothing to do, it seems to lead to a passive giving up. And his answer to that, I'm going to read it because I think it's so beautiful. In concentration, you anticipate what belongs to the already known. It is the known which veils the surprise. And I'll come back to that. in active acceptance, the unexpected comes to you. When I say there's nothing to do, I mean there's nothing to project, and no one who does. Live without memory. And then he says, there is nothing passive in the not doing. It is supremely alert, a mental and physical readiness, a wholehearted welcoming of life as it comes to you. This welcoming is not a view to fatalistic surrender, in which there is still the residue of achieving something. It is welcoming for its own sake. Welcoming openness is the nature of life. Well, then I think I rest my case. The next half hour, I'll just be silent because this is so.
Well, I love your take on his writing, his the way he points, and also your own active your experience, the demonstration that is coming through Beatrice is it's beautiful, and it feels good for me to witness the demonstration of your understanding and also your active the experience that's being seen and also heard. And so thank you for, and also just even the way you're describing, you know, you said, I feel so much, I could just read what he says here and that would be fine. Right? Yes. We have someone that wrote in that has a great, she has a great question, and I would like to include it because it's really straight from this chapter, and she says it's about where is memory localized.
Yeah,
It's on page 78, so it's the next page. And before we get into that, I'm going to read her email. It says, where is memory localized? She said, and it says, by abstraction, I mean we live separated from the perception in fraction. The body is not included. There is also organic memory. This is a quote that she got straight from the book. Organic memory, which is maintained in the cells of the body. And she says, I have been interested in the ideas from a book, The Body Keeps the Score, because I am wondering if some lifetime physical pain is a result of suppressed childhood trauma. Accessing and releasing this has been difficult. I tried to approach it from the idea that I am not the body, but had a body worker tell me I needed to be more in my body. My disconnection was part of the problem. Needless to say, it gets pretty dang confusing for me. Very curious about what you all think Klein is saying with that passage. Thank you for the work you're doing and sharing, and I'll leave her anonymous. So let's get into that on page 78.
Yes, I really want to do that because it. Just before we started, we were almost talking about this, Bill. Just this person is starting to read. The question is, where is memory localized? Mm-hmm. And then he points to two places. Conceptual memory is localized in the brain. And then a few lines down, he says, there is also organic memory. And the question in the email starts from there's also organic memory. But just the sentence above that says, the real understanding of things is the total understanding in which the body participates. And I feel that this is the answer to whoever wrote this. I had the first times I came to meditations with Rupert and the non-dual and I'm not the body stuff. I was having the same problem. For a long time I had neglected my body so as not to feel emotional hurt. So disconnected somehow. So it didn't seem healthy to take that a step further in meditation. And both Rupert and here Jean Klein do not want us to abstract from our bodies or negate that we do have a body. The body is a wonderful instrument. And as he says that, and it's made very clear, the real understanding of what we're talking about here is not an understanding from the brain, but only the brain, but it is an understanding of things, the total understanding in which the body participates. And for me, when I pose myself the question, am I aware? Or when I'm getting in touch with truth, like what we started about in this hour, the tool of the body, there's something, my body relaxes when I'm in touch with truth, with being. And when I'm in, I don't know, it's maybe different for different people. When I'm too much in abstraction of trying to understand it, my body reacts differently. It seems to tense a bit. And I sort of my feet come a little off the floor in a way. But as soon as I start listening the way Jean Klein means it, just listening inside, not to sound, but to the truth sense or whatever. Something also, the body seems to give me a signal, okay. So I relax, the body relaxes. It seems to, it's almost like an orchestra, the brain, the body, in awareness. And when I'm in touch, when I'm really listening, or then the body seems to react. So what he is saying in that sentence around there, I'll read it again. The body can recall just as conceptual memory abstracts us from perception of a flower. So we live in abstraction from the perception of our actual body. This organic memory is usually paralyzed by an overactive intellect, an intellect driven by desire and intentional thinking. So I think that Jean Klein is saying directly the opposite of what people often think. That we're not supposed to abstract from our bodies. On the contrary, the more I get into the direct path, the more I'm not abstracting from my body.
Yes.
I don't know how else to say it.
Well, I think putting words on it becomes difficult because it's kind of like the experience loses itself in awareness, or the experience loses itself in the being when the attention is not on the experience, but not making it separate. I am not a body is separating the body from
Yes,
the
right.
experience instead of including it, where it can lose itself. It sort of just gets self-dissolved into the truth of,
Yeah,
of being. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I agree that that's how it is for me.
yeah.
Also, yeah, I was trying to find it. Well,
That was a great question.
yeah, and also it is. I want to communicate on page 83. That's the next chapter. Still with this email person.
Okay, 83.
Yeah,
Got it.
and then about a third down. Um,
So 82 in the middle of the page on the book I'm reading says,
83, I think.
uh, uh,
Therefore, the first is that the new chapter for you?
the 82 is what
In the new doors?
habits reinforce the ego? Is
Nope. 83. We need
okay.
83.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Um, about the third down, it says spontaneous, clear-sighted vision dissolves all the patterns that produce states and shows us that the non-state is without cause. It exists in itself and by itself. I wanted to add that, say that to the person who wrote the email. Maybe I should start reading a little earlier. I'll start on the top of the page for this, because I think it's extremely important when you feel you have these organic memories of bad childhood experiences. In the
Can you help me find the page first, because I'm not on your page.
83, in the non-dual state.
Okay.
It's the next from what habits reinforce your ego.
Oh, okay. That's on page 85 for me.
Oh, 85 in the new dual state?
Yeah, it's in the non-dual state. It starts.
Okay, 85. I'm sorry, I just have a outdated book.
Okay, and that's where spontaneous, clear-sighted
Yeah.
vision
Yeah,
dissolves.
I'll start I'll start in the beginning, because I think for me, it's an answer to the person who wrote the email.
Great, thank
In
you.
the non-dual state, which is not truly speaking a state, there is neither a subject perceiving nor an object perceived. Creativity unfolds spontaneously, free from the split mind. States are temporary, they come and go in the background, in a background which acts as a support to all the different states that arise. This continuum is ultimate security and peace. If we are lacking the lucidity, we are easily led to believe that the peace of this non-state results from action. Therefore, we attribute it to something outside ourselves. Spontaneous, clear-sighted vision, and this is the important part for the person of the email. So spontaneous, clear-sighted vision dissolves all the patterns that produce states and show us that the non-state is without cause. It exists in itself by itself. But for the email person, I would like to highlight that whatever residue resides in your body, in the organic memory of terrible happenings in your childhood, dissolve by clear sight. But by the clear sighted, if so, so that it is important to keep reading these books and listening to these book clubs and stuff to find the background of security and peace that we are, and then as soon as we can see that, it can be a gradual dissolving, says Anne, but that is what is happening. So, of course, you can go to a therapist, and sometimes it's very good to do that, to dissolve this kind of memories. But my experience is that it also gradually dissolves just by the insights I get from people like Jean Klein or Rupert, or my own true sense.
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to add that because it's not in the doing, it's what it says there. It used to be. We get confused and we think that we have to take action, go see someone or change ourselves. We don't have to change ourselves. We just have to listen to the silence. And slowly, one day you wake up and it's no longer there. I wanted to add that.
Thank you. I really think that was helpful for me. I wasn't the writer of the email, but that really helped me to kind of put all that together also. Thank you. That was great. I was a little bit thrown when I read that that idea that conceptual memory is localized in the brain. I'm thinking the brain is just flesh and blood. How is memory localized there? But it is. It's just just like it was answered in the organic memory, that the cells somehow have a memory.
Yes.
And the brain cells have
the brain for the concepts, and the cells more emotional and sensational, the memory of the senses.
Yeah. And
why were you thrown, Bill?
Well, at first I was thrown by going, the brain. How's the brain holding memory?
Well, they can see that with their little lights and machines. So when you have a memory loss, or when people get Alzheimer and cannot hold the memories, the short-term memories, it's visible, and we humans need Advaita, proteins to keep that whole department working. So and of course, it would be very easy to say, and Rupert probably say, yes, awareness is the one that memorizes or whatever. But we're such an incredible, amazing machine, we humans. The whole touching and moving my hand, I don't understand the first thing of it. I mean, I sort of pretend that I'm raising my hand, but by God, how many muscles and neurons are working together to, it's just one big miracle. And in this beautiful miracle, there is something like memory, conceptual memory and organic memory. And it's localized. Although I know that I, the absolute I, is non-located. I know that. but this whole play or film is being lived and played,
Yes.
with the help of time and space.
Yes.
How beautiful and wonderful is it that we can have, you, me, and the people who are listening, have invented time and space localization. Man, that's incredible, isn't it?
I really love the way you put that just now.
Yeah, it's just a star-naked miracle. As long as we do not forget and lose track of the fact that in actuality it doesn't exist, that I am not localized.
Yes.
Here now is not localized and is timeless. But just imagine what a wonderful, incredible thing to think of, time and space, and yes, they can localize my nose in the middle of my face, and they can localize my conceptual memory in my brain, and they have the machines to prove it to me, because when I get forgetful, apparently they can see that. And here someone says it's not us inventing it, it's consciousness. I agree, because I'm not here. I'm just looking in wonder at these things the consciousness comes up with. Consciousness inventing time and space. I didn't mean people or me or anyone, but just consciousness creating time and space, and even creating that we can, what do you call that? Identify ourselves with the wrong things. It's just, yeah, mind blowing. Yeah.
Well, we're about at the end of our time. Is there anything that you would like to add before we say goodbye to everyone? Next, we did have a question from Titania. We'll bring it up next week at the beginning. We'll come on about 5 minutes early, Titania, because she says she still has a problem with I am not a body. So we'll just bring that up next week about 5 minutes before we start. And we have Jenny Beal will be back next week, I think. Yeah, Jenny, she'll be here for chapter 12, seeing ourselves as autonomous, and 13, true knowledge, will be Jenny Beal. And Jenny, maybe you can pick up on that question at the beginning of next week. We'll start about 5 minutes early. Anything you want to add before we leave?
No, I don't. Thank you. I just wish you. Oh yes, there's one thing I want to add, because I'm not much for teachers, but I do go to retreats, and what is so wonderful about retreats or about this book club is that there are a room full of people who are, to the best of their knowledge, are being, and that sharing with people who are into being is what is so wonderful. That's what the teacher is doing, but it's also all the participants in groups like this and in retreats. In a way that, yeah, that's the most wonderful thing of a retreat, I think.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. I agree.
That's what I wanted to share.
Nice, nice. Very, very nice recognition. And I totally agree. I love this. I love retreats too. And I love retreats because I love that connection that occurs. I love hearing the teacher, the teaching and the meditations. Love that. But I also love the dinners and the connection in the,
all people practicing being.
being. Just connecting with being. Yeah. Well, it's been great. Thank you for being our co-host this week. It was a true delight, and my honor to have you as part of this. Thank you for joining us. And thank you everyone that is here live and also watching the replay. We love you, we bless you, and we are thankful that we're joining in this way. It's just so much fun. And I'll see you next week. Jenny Beal will be our co-host.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.